I'm Barry Tramel with the Oklahoman. It's now been 20 years since Barry Switzer last was on the recruiting trail, but his stories have not paled. The tales remain vivid of how Switzer collected the talent that built the Sooner football dynasty. I sat down with Switzer a couple of days ago to reminisce about his days as one of college football's most dynamic recruiters. Favorite meal you ever had in a recruit's house?
JC's was pretty good. Mama could cook good, and we had the greens and, all the vegetables, which is what I was raised on. We had the garden and all. Didn't have much meat when I grew up, so it was kind of that same way. Maybe had a piece of ham, a little slice of ham, but about 10 vegetables, Crowder peas and black-eyed peas, purple hull peas, all the peas you can think of, and buttered beans and cornbread, crackling bread. It was a pretty good feast. But I've had several good meals in a lot of people's homes. But it was always a black family. That was probably the best because of what they served.
Who's the most impressive set of parents you ever sat down and talked to?
Without a doubt. I mean, there are a lot of them, and I don't want to think about, but I'm going to tell you, it was an Afro-American family. It was a black family from Odessa, Texas. Daryl Hunt's mother and father were the most impressive people that I ever sat and visited with. I felt like I left there and didn't do a good job. I was scared. I was scared that they weren't going to think much of me. She was an educator and he was an educator. The questions that they asked, they were prepared. They drilled me. I mean, they literally drilled me. It wasn't one of them, you want a pearl beer, or, and talk football. It was all about academics and a lot of questions I couldn't answer because I wasn't that versed on our school academically. I knew a lot about our football program, but enough to usually get me by academically. But they were impressive, very impressive.
What recruit surprised you the most? Who's the guy that you recruited and you just sort of took him and didn't really know he was that good of a ball player? You just took a flyer on him and he turned out to be
Darren Kilpatrick. Here's a guy that was a halfback in high school, played 8-man football from Porter, Texas. And he said, Daryl always says, well, you never came see made a home visit to me. You never came see my mother, daddy, parents and all. I said, I don't go see 8-man football players. I lied because I did go see Jimmy Jones up in Turpin, Oklahoma. Had to fly into Liberal and drive down and get in a double wide with him. He was an 8-man player out of Turpin. But Kilpatrick ended up being a really good player because he could run 4.6 and he was 6'5", and he got big. We knew he'd get big and play down.
What guy athletically surprised you the most in a negative way? A guy you really thought was going to be a fantastic player and just never panned out and not because of off the field issues, just didn't turn out to be the ball player you thought he was going to be?
There have been a few, I laugh about it, and I like and I love the family, and they're a great family, and I talked about them the other day, and I think Silas Sadabahoodle, full-blood Osage Indian, was about 6'7" or 6'8", weighed about 330 pounds, could dance. He was an Indian dancer. They traveled all over the state and the country and performed their ritual of the Indian dance. His feet were so good, and he'd been doing it all his life, he and his brother, that when I watched him dance, I said, this guy's going to be the greatest offensive tackle, because an offensive tackle needs great feet. The linemen need great feet. That's their number one ability, is have great feet. He's had the mass to be a great player. When you're as big as he is, he was big as Phil Lodeholt, but he was too easygoing. He was just too good a guy. He just wasn't tough enough physically, mentally, to be the player that he could have been. And I could never reach him. I wanted him to be so good, and tried every way I could to motivate him to be what I thought he could be, because he could have been really a difference maker, a great player. Then you take a kid like Sammy Jack Clapham, who's a 6 foot, 7 Cherokee Indian from Stillwell, Oklahoma, and then he ends up playing 12 years of professional football, and he wasn't as good an athlete as Silas. But it's all up here. You play the game 90% from here up.